Pablo, you go first. You got to get this show on track.
I know. This is me
This is what
losing
it's like.
control. This is what it's like to hang out with John and David in this office. And I want to explain who these men are for people who aren't familiar with their legends, because David Sampson, former president of the then Florida Marlins, now Miami Marlins, but a guy more than that, John. I think you've noticed this. A guy whose brain is unlike, I think, any other brain that I know, and I know a lot of weird brains.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe David's weird brain?
I don't think his brain is weird or peculiar at all. I think his brain is wired to be a capitalist. He actually, and I mean that as a compliment, Mr. Sampson understands about making money.
Oh, but
Me, I'm giving away dollars on the street corner.
Here's the thing about my brain versus John's brain, and I've thought about this for quite a long time as I was thinking, do I want to get under the kimono with someone like John? Easy to do with Dan because of the relationship that I had with Dan. Not so easy to do with John. And I was thinking, what will Meadowlark be successful? And it didn't occur to me that there was anything other than a successful end to Meadowlark, whatever the exit strategy is whenever that happens. Because while John plays the part, he's just an actor, playing the part of the socialist, the communist. John is as about money as I am, except he just likes to act. And what nothing personal is, I don't act. This is me. This is how I think. This is what I think. But you never know with John.
Well, this is where we come to our first topic today, because David sees the world through all of these calculations. He sees it as truly like probabilistic, financially rigorous calculi. And John happens to be the guy who happened to just run the most, I think we've called it numerous times on the Sporting Class, the best business in the history of media as the president of ESPN. And so when I'm reading in the Wall Street Journal this article that's headlined how the NBA plans to remake TV deals and net billions of dollars for its stars, I'm reminded that I now work for the guy, again, who signed those billion-dollar deals in the first place. This is the map that he drew. And then I read the Ethan Strauss story on his Substack, which is a commentary on that journal piece about how, quote, I'm not sure how the NBA triples its rights fees in a TV recession, and he is far more skeptical and cynical and doubting of the idea that the cable television model is doing anything but cratering, and the tech money that's supposed to come in is anything but illusory, given the rich checks that John Skipper liked to write once upon a time. And so, John, this is literally your account, or was once upon a time. What do you make of the idea that NBA season is upon us, and it may never be the same given the price of what people like to pay for such a sport?
The premise of the idea that because of the decline of pay TV, the money's not going to be there for the NBA. The money's going to be there for the NBA. And this does get to the difference in brains in some ways we were talking about. David, and I say this with admiration, is a guy who does his homework. He does his research. He calculates. He analyzes things. I have a much simpler, instinctual style to some extent. I just believe the NBA rights are worth $1 more than what anyone else will pay for them. That's what they're worth. So I never did a whole lot of calculating to sort of go, what should we pay? I went into the negotiation believing I needed to win and that I needed to get those rights to maintain ESPN's status as the worldwide leader in sports.
So you're saying that your board had no care about ROI. They just said, let's think what John with his vibes is drinking and what he believes the value is, and we're good with that.
No, I don't think
parameters, no financial parameters, just your feeling of $1 more.
It's not quite that casual.
I would like to talk about that.
And I had a CFO who spent time doing the budgets and doing the projections, and we did project. We said, here's what happens if we pay this amount of money. Here's what happens if we pay this Y amount of money. I'm simply talking about the sort of idea that there is some intrinsic inherent value that can be calculated. There's not. It's like buying a house. It's like buying a painting. It's like buying any kind of work of art. I mean,
Mm.
what's the inherent value of a Rothko? There's no inherent value other than what somebody else will pay for it.
I hear you, but I'm sorry to go deeper, but they're comps for a reason.
Mhm.
So there's a market for Rothko.
Mhm.
So when you go to the auction house
Mhm.
and there's a piece of art for sale, you are aware when they have an estimate. The estimate doesn't just fall out of John Skipper's brain. There's a reason for an estimate. For a house, there's a value, there's an appraisal.
Mhm.
Things are appraised according to the value, not according. There is ego premium with the value of a sports team.
Right.
And there could be ego premium with the value of certain works of art. Let's say a
Yes.
Van Gogh.
Yes.
But if you're looking at a Rothko, great example, there's a market for him, like there's a market for a house, like there's a market for the NBA. And we're seeing already the possibility of Turner saying, hey, we're being priced out of this market, which happens.
Well, so John, remind us what you paid for the NBA deal. What was the deal that you signed that's now up for expiration?
The NBA deal was 9 years for ESPN. I think it was an average annual of about $1.36 billion. Turner's is 1.24. And remember, this is important for later, average annual.
Mm.
Most people don't actually understand that doesn't mean that every year you're paying $1.36 billion. It means that year one of a 9-year deal, you're paying, I'm making these numbers up, but they're directionally right, 1.2. And by the end of this deal, they're probably paying 1.5. So to start with the idea that whatever it goes up from is 1.36, but they're already paying 1.5. So they're going to end up paying an average annual of 2.5.
That's PR. I mean,
Right.
what you're saying.
Right.
And because you do it with player contracts, you do it with employee contracts.
Right.
If you give someone a raise during the course of an employment deal, whether you're a player or a media superstar like Pablo, you could take his average annual value, except what he's going to do as a talent, and the NBA is the talent here.
Right.
He's going to look at what his last salary was for the last year of the deal, and he's going to want an increase from that number. So if you went to Pablo as an example and said, we're going to give you a 10% increase from your AAV after a 3-year deal, he would say, no, the way I calculate it is I want 10% for my last year.
That's good negotiating by David. By the way,
it
if you
is
want to do
good
this now, if
negotiating
you
by
want to
David.
get my contract done now as well in this conversation, that'd be cool.
Though I will tell you, in any negotiation I ever had, I never heard about anything except we paid 1.5 average annual last time. We want to take you up and double that.
Well, so John, this is
That's
the
what I heard from baseball. I heard from baseball, gee, you're paying average annual of, I think we're paying $350.
Because we used to manufacture what the payouts were to owners. And so what owners would look at is how much money did we get this year from the broadcast deal distributed versus how much money we're going to get next year distributed.
Yeah.
And when the commissioner manipulates the distributions, it makes it easy to convince owners, hey, you're getting more money, you're getting X percent more.
But okay, so a lot of kimono opening now, which I love. But the update here for the public is that seemingly in this journal piece, ESPN and TNT are unwilling to pay the prices that they paid that they got from John.
Why are they reporting that they have said they're unwilling to pay you? I
not
haven't
buying
heard
that.
anything
Sources
other than I've only heard one thing, which is there was a moment where David Zaslav said, gee, we're not going to pay an inappropriate price.
Well, he was
That's
saying
all he
we don't want to
said.
lose money.
So the price that they're saying, per the Wall Street Journal, that they're unwilling to pay is $2.6 billion a year on NBA rights. This is ESPN and TNT, as the league is seeking deals now with Amazon and Apple and tech companies.
Well, that is fairly poor reporting and just misleading. These guys would jump. If you set up an obstacle course 100 yards away and the executives and the board and everybody said you could pay only $2.6 billion to renew your rights, they would be flying to do that. So why there's a suggestion that they're not willing to pay the amount they're paying now? First of all, they're already paying more now than $2.6 billion, and nobody.
Combined.
Pardon?
Combined.
Yeah, combined. They're paying more than that already. So why is the Wall Street Journal suggesting that they somehow have sources suggesting they're not willing to pay what they're paying now?
You know why.
Trust-
You know why leaks happen. It's in the best interest of the bidder to say to the person who has the asset, hey, we're not going to be able to meet your number.
Nobody pays any attention to that. Everybody knows that's what's going on, And trust me, the NBA is not even thinking about $2.6 billion from Turner and ESPN. They're thinking about quite a bit more money, and they don't care what the Wall Street Journal reports that they are willing to pay, that because they have more bidders. That's all that matters. And I'll go back, David. You were talking about Rothko, I'm talking about walking into the auction house and going, I'm going to buy this Rothko. I am going to buy it. The mark to market is $60 million, but I'm there holding up a paddle. And when somebody else bids 61, I'm going 62. That's all I'm saying. That was my attitude, and that was my intention in those deals, was to win. And because we needed that content. Turner and ESPN need this content. This is a really, really hard problem.
So the context broadly here, though, as we imagine John Skipper, in Uncut Gems, bidding, raising the paddle up on the piece of art that he loves, is that there is now this larger concern that the pockets of the bidders, when it comes to cable television, David, are not as deep anymore. Or at least now we see inside of the pockets in ways that we hadn't before.
This has been the biggest news of the past week or two for me, has been finally ESPN, Disney, ABC, whatever you want to call it. Just let's say ESPN and forgetting corporate ownership. They had to release, let me use the better verb. They did for reasons that we can tell you, which is they're selling. Disney is selling ESPN. They need to raise cash. There is a lagging stock price, and they need to pay down debt. So they want to sell ESPN. So they release the financials that John would never release. He would never tell the truth to leagues. He would never tell the truth to owners, commissioners, anybody. It would be nothing but a lie. And now
the vibes are getting worse.
Now it's all in the public. So what the leagues are doing, whether it's Adam Silver, your buddy, which on a side note, the way you're carrying his water makes me laugh. Adam Silver is bending over backwards. He's rubbing stuff all over every joint, fixing the All-Star game, doing stuff with load management. What do you think? He's doing that because he wants a better product? He's doing it because he wants the networks to be able to have something to attach to offer the money that he wants. Are you even willing to agree with that or not?
No disagreement to that.
But if everyone's willing to pay what he wants, why is he changing things to get more?
His objective is to get more. So he is going to put things in front of people to get them to pay more money. I don't recall ever being in a big negotiation with a big league where they didn't bring some new toys to the table to try to push the prices up, right? More playoff teams.
But Adam's looking for a triple.
I don't actually know. Again, we're all assuming that this reporting actually has first-party sources. I don't think Adam has actually ever said, I'm going to get 3 times. I don't think either ESPN or TNT has ever said, we can't afford to buy this.
Well, what's he told you?
If he did tell me anything, and he doesn't, because we both understand as friends that he's not going to put me in a position of either lying or revealing things that he doesn't want revealed, and I wouldn't put him in that position.
But what about the ratings here, right? There are toys on the table, and there's also a larger context of the NBA ratings not being seemingly in the linear television fashion. Of course, the NBA can claim that we are over-indexing on social and digital video. But the actual business of people watching games, how does this inform this negotiation?
Look, you can go around and around this stuff all you want, but the fact of the matter is these are existential rights for ESPN. They have to have the NBA. And it's pretty close to existential with TNT. I don't know if they have to have the NBA, but I think they do. Again, there's a lot of stuff here that we're assuming is being correctly reported. They probably do have sources, but including what you just said, Dave. You said that ESPN is for sale. That's not what they've said. They have said what we're looking for is a minority partner to come in and give us some money to pay down the debt.
That's what we all
who
say.
Who can also help us.
That's everyone starts with, hey, we just would like to bring in a limited partner. Oh, crikeys, we can't get anyone to give us 10x on a limited partnership. All right, we'll give you a path to control. That's the second step.
That sometimes happens. I agree with you. But I don't know, and I did live within that place for 27 years. I don't know that I believe that the board and Bob want to sell ESPN as a whole. They may be forced to, because I'm not sure there is a minority partner. They also said they wanted a minority partner who would help them either grow their content or their distribution. And again, I'm not quite sure what that does. You then, by the way, I do have to defend myself. I never had a say in whether ESPN's numbers were released or not. That was a board and a CEO
No, but when I'd
decision.
ask you, or anyone would ask you to tell us the truth about your financial model, you go to all your partners right now and say, open your kimono, tell me how you're doing. How are you monetizing? Nothing personal. You're happy to do it now because you're on the other side.
Absolutely.
When we did it to you, you clammed up.
Well, first of all, I couldn't do it. I worked for the Walt Disney Company. What advantage would I get in telling you how
Friendship.
much money we made?
We've now reached the point
Yeah.
where David no longer believes any of his arguments.
No, I mean, I get why he did it.
No,
obviously.
of course, you would
but-
do the same thing.
Of course I would.
But can I give a larger?
But I would admit it.
Well,
But you are right about what you are right about is the Walt Disney Company did not want to release the ESPN numbers. One, they did not want the leagues to see those numbers because they would have asked for more money, and they did not want the distributors to see how much money ESPN was making. So they aggregated the media earnings. They also
This is a big point, what he said.
yeah. I also actually believe they did not want the rest of the company to know how much of the value of the company was ESPN. And Wall Street tried for years
Well,
and years
characterize
to do
that.
the calculations of what
Well, they try to back into it. That's
try
what
to
analysts
back into
do,
it.
and they got it wrong
but for
because they
people
don't
who
have the info.
For
It's
people
like
who don't
Forbes.
know, John, how big of the pie ESPN is, so to speak, how big of the pie is it?
ESPN was bigger during the tens, 2010s.
The height of the submarket.
The height of the submarket. ESPN was a bigger, more profitable company than the studio and the parks put together.
Which is staggering, right? I mean, unsurprising to you guys who've been swimming in these waters. All of this is water to you. You're not surprised. But from the outside, it connects to the concern now about here are these tech companies that have more money than God, right? Their pocket depth is not the concern. The concern, though, is that I presume they're seeing, again, to just reference opening night ratings that just happened, right? Last year, and again, this is just one metric, but last year, 2.984 million people watched Sixers Celtics, 3.55 watched Lakers Warriors. That was last year. This year, 2.8 for Lakers Nuggets, 2.7 for Suns Warriors. So a decline of some degree. And so the question is, and this is Ethan's skepticism in the piece, is why would a tech company that thinks more like David Sampson, right, looking for every margin, not wanting to overpay by even $1, right? I want to mark this to market. Why they would replicate the largesse of the John Skipper regime.
So I think we'll agree here. When you were calculating, which you're saying you never calculated, but someone was calculating worth, I'm not sure that ratings actually factored anywhere into the calculation. It's sexy. There are press releases about where we are. It feels bad when you're down. It feels great when you're up. And you could do it based on a percentage increase, which 100% increase from 1 is 2, and that's still crappy. Because Marlins, we would do that all the time. Hey, our TV ratings were up 69%. Oh my God, they're the worst in baseball.
Love a press release, David
Love
Sampson
a press
does.
release. So do you agree? You didn't do that. You didn't care about ratings.
We didn't get paid for ratings other than advertising, right? And if you look at the numbers just released by the Walt Disney Company, they had just north of $10 billion in distribution fees. Those don't change a cent based upon ratings. They're going to get paid next year $10 point something billion if nobody watches.